Howdy folks, Effing Controller here, back with more Uncharted Waters, New Horizons, playing as Ali. We're about to depart the port of Lisbon. Gonna sell our arms and maybe our legs. But we have to take those to the Caribbean. And since I have so much food and water, I'm not gonna need to resupply Madeira there. Having this sloop is really gonna open up some, well, it's not gonna change our inherent possibilities as far as what we can trade, but we're going to be making a lot more money on the route now that we've basically doubled our cargo capacity. So I'm going to sail just down here a little bit and hit South America, hopefully. I'm going to do it without using the map. Feeling frisky. So previously, when we went to South America, we were able to avoid storms altogether, but the next port that I have to go to, I can't just avoid them, because everywhere around this port that I'm going to, you can run into a storm. So I'm not going to stop anywhere, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the game. Just because I'm not that lucky. So now we're entering an area, once you hit the Leeward and Windward Islands here, you run into the possibility of hitting a storm. And right here is going to be Santo... What? Well, we hit a storm, and I didn't get any warning, which shouldn't be the case. Did I reassign Salim as my first mate? I did. He's just bad at it. Okay. Fun. Let's sell the arms, first of all. Let's also take a look at our ship and see if it got damaged. It probably did. Nope, it's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Doop 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 doop. And that's a lot of money. Worth the trip, I would still say. So from here, we're going to be buying coral, and that is going to sell really, really well once I get back to Europe, which is where I'm taking it. Not to spoil anything, but coral, if I recall correctly, is a really profitable trade good in the prequel to this game. And I try not to think about the prequel to this game very much. It's kind of traumatizing. Okay, so I have so much cargo capacity now that I can fill up my ship and not have any money left. But I don't necessarily want to do that. The reason is that I'll have 27 food and water, which is normally plenty. But my next destination is in the Mediterranean, first of all. Second of all, I have to cross back over the Atlantic, and yeah, there's compelling reasons for me not to max out my my purchase here. So I'm gonna do 130. And I'll still have plenty left for food and water. Now when I leave this port, it's very likely that I'll run into another storm. So let's look forward to that together. 55 days, that's plenty. I should have probably saved the game in port. Try not talking for a few seconds here because of that. Because Salim is apparently not too keen on warning me when a storm comes. So when you encounter a storm and you're not right next to the port, the best thing to do is to just go ashore, and you won't typically take damage if you're quick. That's the main thing, is you have to be quick. And I'm not necessarily all that quick all the time. But that worked out pretty well. We only ran into the one storm. The game has a really bad habit of... Why am I going that way? Let's go this way. The game has a really bad habit of spawning multiple storms over and over and over again, and it is just horrible. It's really, really infuriating sometimes to get like half a dozen storms in a chain like that, because that's why I have so much food and water, because honestly I've had it happen where I'm stuck somewhere for like 15, 20 days because of storms. That's pretty uncommon, and it's when you're sailing in areas where there's really no other option than to sail through the stormy parts. Particularly if you're going to West African ports, that becomes a problem. But we are... Well, I say we're not going to be doing that anytime soon. We actually are. We're going to be doing that fairly soon. So, brace for that. Brace for more stormy weather. But meanwhile, we're sailing back to Europe. Heading to the Mediterranean. Plenty of food and water. I mentioned earlier that you don't really tend to run into problems with rats. So the cat is really not that useful of a item to have, so it makes sense to sell it at the start of the game. The advantage to having a cat really comes into play when you are sailing a ship like a sloop that has such an astonishing range. Like, you can sail this thing almost indefinitely. Where am I? I really overshot the Strait of Gibraltar, didn't I? Wow. But if you're at sea for longer than 30 days or so, I think that's when it can happen that you start having rats. You can also have issues with scurvy. So there's items in the game that can help you deal with both. The cat will preemptively remove your rat problem. And if you do run into scurvy, you can use lime juice. You can also use balm to dissipate storms. That's another useful item to have. But I think it's better to just go with having a figurehead on your ship. That tends to reduce the likelihood of storms too. We're going to stop in Syracuse here in a second. Now we're going to stop there. And I just realized that this is probably an Italian port. It's Turkish. Outstanding. Never mind. Still too early though, so we're gonna go into the harbor and leave, and it'll be 4:30. Fantastic. And we're gonna sell our tortoise shell or coral. That's what we bought before. And make quite a pretty penny. Now, our next good though is not nearly as profitable. It's boring and I hate it. It's grain. Grain, everybody. It's the worst. It's among the most annoying trade goods. Oh, he won't let me price it down. So, counter his offer of 19 with an offer of 19. Hey, 19. So we filled up our ship with grain, and we're gonna take it back across the Atlantic. I know. Trust me, it's for the best. Oh, I can't resupply because I'm full. That's okay. Where am I going with this? Aha, okay. Grain, let's see. Where does that sell for a profit other than where I'm taking it? I think East Africa, if I'm remembering right. Just gonna save because I almost ran into that pirate there. I'm looking at this chart to see. Yeah, East Africa is the most profitable place to sell grain. It's not really practical, excuse me, to sell it there. It's not worth it either. It's just stupid. Don't do it. It could be used to manipulate prices, I guess, but it would be most effectively used to depress the price of food items, which East Africa doesn't really have any that are that interesting. You might be noticing that I'm just sailing west here. That's because my next port, while it is in the Caribbean, it's actually easier to access by going from North America. So we're going to do it that way. And I will resupply. Or will I? No, I'll resupply. Yeah, that's a good idea. There's a port that I'll be hitting here in a minute that's directly west. And when you're doing this, like I said, like, you really start to wonder, am I ever going to see land when I sail this far to the west? I mean, you know that you eventually will, but do I have enough food and water? Am I going to make it? When you're doing this for the first time, it really is kind of exhilarating. Because it takes a long time, and you're just thinking, is the game messing with me? Am I gonna make it? We're actually not sailing that fast. It's because of the wind. I should be tacking. Oh, there we go. And that is Cape Cod. Wicked. So this is a supply port. We haven't run into any yet. We haven't really gone that far afield. But all supply ports do is they'll just supply your ship. And that's it. And it is a new year. It's 1523. Alright, so like I mentioned, the next port is more easily accessed from North America. We're going to Havana. And is there... Oh, there's sometimes a village. I don't know why I'm trying to discover a village that I don't intend on actually using, but that's my problem, okay? Shit. Well, at least Salim is warning us about storms. That's nice of him. So yeah, once you hit the Carolinas, that's when you start running into the possibility of storms. But we would run into this possibility anyways, going the way that I normally go to get to the Caribbean. And in fact, it would be more so, because I'd have to sail up the Windward Islands, past Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, along the coast of Cuba. It is a little bit longer to go that way. God. I might have been well served to stock up on balm, but... oh well. It's just terrible. It's a terrible mechanic in this game. I'm really annoyed by it. In the original Uncharted waters, storms would probably kill you. They're the worst. Because you lose control of your ship. And you are pretty much SOL unless you're actually right up next. I don't think you can even go... oh god. I don't think you can even go ashore when you have a storm in the original Uncharted waters. I'm pretty sure about that. You're just kind of stuck. You just end up getting blown around the map, and also your ship gets blown around the map. But it's a pretty bad situation. I do plan on playing that game at some point, but I want to do it after I play all the scenarios in this, just because, well, I don't want to. I kind of want to, and I don't want to, because this is just such a better game, and the original Uncharted Waters is, I don't want to just say flat out bad, but it's got a lot of problems. They're hard to overlook. Havana, meanwhile, we made it. Living up to its name. Doesn't that mean haven? I don't know. Actually, I'm just assuming that. Maybe it's not actually a cognate. A faux ami, as they say in French. But we're going to be trading our grain. Oh boy. I don't even care. Wait, was that actually a profit? I should check that, because that wasn't really that much money. I think it was 19 that I bought it for, right? Yeah, okay. God, it's just such a piddly amount. Percentage-wise, it's good, but the actual margin is bad. But we're going to be making some decent money on this next good. So it's almost worthwhile. Vanilla. And 40, I think, is the threshold for... oh, yeah, it is. 30 or 40. Trading for 39. 40 is the minimum or the maximum amount that the game will say, I'll lose my shirt trading at that price. I think if it's at 41, it'll let you haggle a little bit more. So I could buy 200 lots of vanilla, which is honestly tempting. because I'm buying it for 39, and if I can get up to Cape Cod, I can. That's a great, you know, this is just a great situation. So this is really, we're gonna be making a lot of money. Don't you worry. Oh yeah, oh, resupplying. Okay, so now we just have to keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't take 20 days to get up to Cape Cod. It likely will be just fine. Really thought I jinxed myself there, but yep, I kind of did. The big problem there is if you get stuck in that passage there with the storm starting. So you need to get to land as soon as possible to avoid damage to your ship. And if you're in the middle of the ocean, that's kind of hard. The game doesn't have the Florida Keys in it for some reason, which is kind of weird, but some interesting omissions and additions, actually, to the geography in this. I don't know. Overall, it's much better than the original Uncharted Waters. That's one of the big problems with it, is just that the map is comically unrealistic. It does not look like the human planet of Earth. What I want to do when I play it is figure out how to actually make a map of the game map and, like, you know, stitch it together and show for the whole world what it looks like and why it's bad. I don't want to rake, you know, a almost 30-year-old game over the coals too much, but it is really pretty bad in that respect. Okay, we're gonna stop in Cape Cod, and then we're gonna sail east to Europe. Excellent. Here we go. Part of the reason I like getting the sloop early on is just that it is so, you have so much more cargo capacity. You can actually start making some decent money. And that is ostensibly why we're doing all of this, so. Just don't have much wind, it looks like. You'll notice that I was actually getting better speed, so like the wind is out of the west, and if I'm sailing with it directly behind me, I actually am not getting as good of speed. If I tack a little bit though, like this, I don't remember all the sailing directions. I know that if you sail into the wind, it's called in irons, but I don't remember like what this is. Where the wind is like at my, you know, 135 or whatever. Anywho, with these ships though that have triangular sails like the sloop or the Caravella Latina, the La Real, it's actually better for you to sail with the wind not directly at your back. You get much better speed. Oh, it's Madeira. Okay, cool. I'm pretty much right on the money. And my next port is Pisa. And we're making pretty good speed. There's a big bunch of ships sailing through here right now. Sometimes I like to check who's sailing around, just out of curiosity, but when you're sailing as Ali, there's really no need to interact with other captains. It's kind of unnecessary. Is that Pisa? That's Naples. What am I doing? Alright, Pisa. And now is where the fun begins. It's gonna be kind of tough coming up, but I'm glad that I was able to find a sloop. And we're gonna make a lot of money off of our vanilla. Holy smokes. That's awesome. So silk cloth is ostensibly the specialty, but I'm going to be buying glass beads. And I can't haggle that down from 2 to 1 as much as I might want to try. We're going to buy... It's not really... Well, it's fairly profitable, actually, to sell glass beads where I'm going to be selling them. So I'm going to buy 200 lots. I was just debating whether or not I wanted to have all that room for food. Because where I'm going next, we're sure to encounter a storm. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to resupply our ship, and I'm going to stop in Marseille, because I happen to know that it sells balm, and I'm going to need it. Buy about 3 of them, I think. I don't know if Pisa sells it. I should look and see, like, what ports sell it. Hopefully it'll be unnecessary. Okay. Marseille. Item shop. Where is it? It's over here. It's closed. Cool. Let's walk in and out of the lodge here for a couple turns. Okay, should be 8 o'clock now. And then we'll go and buy some balm. I'm gonna buy 3. The frustrating thing about balm, though, is that when you do buy it and use it, as you've seen, storms can come in rapid fire. Like, oh my god, it doesn't have balm? Is that a late night thing? I thought Marseille sold balm. Well, shoot. I wonder if it's... You know what? I'm just gonna leave. I'm so disappointed. I'm gonna live on the edge of my seat here. Really exciting stuff. I'm gonna go to Madeira and resupply. We're gonna head to West Africa. Because Madeira is a West African port, but we're gonna get into the actual heart of West Africa. Actually, quite literally the heart of it. Well, geographically speaking. It's not like it has a literal beating heart that we're gonna sail into like a blood platelet. It's a weird conversation we're having right now, folks. Okie dokie. And so this is Cape Verde over here. The port of Santa Cruz. Wait, no, this isn't Cape Verde. This is the Canaries. Now we have to start hugging the coast, because West Africa, once you get past this port that's coming up, Argin, you're very likely to run into storms. But there is a good number of ports along here. Oh my god. That's pretty early to get one. That's bad luck right there. So we're not at any real risk of running out of food and water. I should not say things like that. That is stone cold stupid of me to say stuff like that. But... oh well. It's gonna be fine. The port of Bathurst, which, okay. I don't think it would have been called that at this point. Damn. I don't remember what the next port is, and I think it's fairly close, though. West Africa has some pretty good trade goods, but they almost always require investment. There's a couple of exceptions, some ports that sell some interesting stuff, but there's only, I think, Timbuktu is one of them. That's where we're heading. Timbuktu is one of the best ports in the game, just to use at the beginning because it sells some pretty cool stuff that requires investment in all the other West African ports. With, I think, the exception of San George. Is it San George that I'm thinking of? Why am I asking you? You have no idea. You have no way of knowing what's going on in this pretty little head of mine. Meanwhile, the AI is perfectly content to sail through storms. It's kind of frustrating. Okay, we're going to keep going, because I think San George is coming up. We're not going to trade here. I'm just going to resupply. Actually, let me check something. Let's see if this trade's a good that I will be trading later. Yeah. Never mind. Doop 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 doop. Don't worry about it. Cool. Okay. On to Timbuktu. And I'm keeping really close to the coast. Oh god. And that's why. They just come out of nowhere and they're incessant. They're just the worst. Think about how much fun it's going to be to go back. And we're not even done with West Africa yet. We have at least one more stop to make here. Fun stuff. Okay. Well, let's get out of here. Okay, so we should, once we get to this branch of the river here, we're definitely out of the woods. There's a village. We're going to ignore that. There may be another village coming up on the left or on the south here. Nope. Timbuktu. Great little port, but hard to get to. It's exactly 4 o'clock. I did that intentionally. That's why the storms happen. To allow us the opportunity to arrive exactly at 4 o'clock, I guess. Glass beads. Bought for 2, selling for 51. The percentage is insane. It's just that you can't really load your fleet up too easily with beads. They just take up a lot of space, apparently. So I'm going to sell them all. And I mentioned that Timbuktu is a really great port because it has access to a lot of goods that are... you normally need to invest to get access to these goods in other ports. Gold is a great trade good. It's a little pricey right now, but you would still be able to sell that for a really good profit in Europe. But we're going to leave gold further on in the order here. But amber, you'd have to invest in to get in West Africa. Ivory, you normally do, except for in the port of San George, which we checked out. So we're going to be stopping there at some point. But other ones like cacao, you do have to invest in too. You have to invest in the port to get access to that. And that's my next good. It feels like kind of a shame to use Timbuktu to trade cacao, but because it's not that exciting, it's not that profitable. I mean, I love chocolate, don't get me wrong, but it's a fairly low margin trade good. But it's the only place that I can really get it right now, so it's kind of frustrating. But I'll tell you what's really frustrating is all the goddamn storms. But anyways, buying cacao, we're going to take it somewhere else now, and I'm going to leave that for the next episode. I'll see you guys then.